musical innovations and technologies develop, some of our old instruments and technologies are rendered obsolete. Yet even so, I think it's fascinating to be able to look back and see where our modern instruments have developed from. And so in this video I am going to be sharing with you my choice of 5 obsolete musical instruments. Number 5, the racket. The racket, also called a sausage bassoon, is an early double-reeded instrument that at first glance almost resembles some sort of illicit smoking tool. The instrument itself is quite small, but it has an ingenious design. Its body is effectively a log of wood that's got many holes in it bored lengthwise, and the corresponding ends of each hole are joined up to each other to make one very long tube. As far as the sound is concerned, the racket blended well with other instruments of the period, although by itself it's somewhat an acquired taste. The racket was eventually unravelled and replaced by the bassoon. Number 4, the cornopian. The cornopian is a type of early brass instrument that was used in the 1800s. The instrument utilised Sturzel valves, however that's pronounced, instead of the modern Pyrenees or rotary valves that we use today. Ultimately, the cornopian was replaced by the cornetta pistons, now just called the cornet, and it and the unique Sturzel valves became a thing of the past. Number 3, the hornpipe. Simple instruments like this can have many different names depending on the geography in which they were used. However, the general construction of this instrument was that it is a hollow tube with several holes and a slightly flared end, which would often be made of bone. A player would blow into the mouthpiece end, passing air through a reed which would produce the sound. Some of these hornpipes would have 2 sets of tubes and reeds, one of which would play the melody, whilst the second would play a sustained drone, sort of like a bagpipe. In concept, the single tube and single reeded version is the forefather of the modern clarinet, although in sound the hornpipe is similar to bagpipes or the chanter. Number 2, the Farion. The designs of stringed instruments were many and various over the past many hundred years. In addition to the Farion, there was a cittern, a penolcon, a theorbo, a lute, an awad, and many others. The Farion itself was a mini-stringed instrument that would have strings under a very low tension, and these strings would normally be made out of brass. Some versions of this instrument could have up to 18 different strings. Sometimes each string would have its own pitch, and sometimes the strings would be paired together for extra resonance. Because of the low tension on the strings, the player would have to play very gently to avoid the strings rattling against the fretboard or against the other strings. As stronger metals became available, the tension on each string could be increased, and subsequently the range of notes that you could play on each string increased. And gradually the Farion disappeared from use, ultimately to be replaced by the modern guitar. Number 1, the Virginal. The Virginal is an obsolete small keyboard instrument. Its strings are plucked, sort of like the harpsichord, but the strings run parallel to the keyboard, resulting in a rather compact design. In fact, some Virginals were small enough to be played on the lap of the performer, although they were more commonly placed on a table. Due to the design of the instrument with how the strings were arranged, the keyboard would often be placed off to one side as opposed to being centered, something that upsets me greatly. The origin of the name Virginal is debated, but some sources refer to a possibility that the instrument's tone is sweet and pure, like a virgin's apparently is, or that the performers might have had to have been a virgin to play it. Ultimately, the Virginal was replaced by other instruments such as the clavichord, spinet and the harpsichord, instruments that ultimately led to the development of the modern piano. So there we have it, 5 obsolete musical instruments. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider hitting the subscribe button, and thank you for watching. La 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 la.